Hello and welcome to Trendy Debate. I, Dr. KAVITA, will discuss today NATO organization in detail in view of the current Ukraine and Russian conflict. In the last video, we discussed the Minsk Agreement of 2014 and 2015 in the Russian-Ukraine conflict. In this video, we will understand NATO. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, is an international organization made up of the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and a number of European nations that was founded in 1949 for the goal of collective security. Countries in the order of joining NATO. In 1949, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, United Kingdom and United States joined NATO organization. In 1952, Greece and Turkey joined it. In 1955, Germany. In 1982, Spain joined it. In 1999, Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland. In 2004, Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia. In 2009, Albania and Croatia. In 2017, Montenegro. In 2020, North Macedonia joined NATO organization. Apart from these 30 members countries, there are also NATO partner countries. Some of them are Armenia, Austria, Belarus, Bosnia, Finland, Georgia, Ireland, Kazakhstan, the Republic of Moldova, Russia, Serbia, Sudan, Switzerland, and other such countries. NATO headquarters is in Brussels, Belgium. NATO is a military alliance founded on April 4, 1949 by the North Atlantic Treaty, also known as the Washington Treaty, which attempted to form a counterweight to Soviet soldiers stationed in Central and Eastern Europe following World War II. Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, which is the signing states commit to, is at the core of NATO. It says, an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against them all. And consequently, they agree that if such an armed attack occurs, each of them, in exercise of the right of individual or collective self-defense recognized by Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations, will assist the party or parties so attacked by taking forfeit, individually and in concern with the other parties, such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. After the September 11 attacks coordinated by exiled Saudi Arabian businessman Osama bin Laden, which destroyed the World Trade Center in New York City and a portion of the Pentagon outside Washington, D.C., killing over 3,000 people, NATO evoked Article 5 for the first time in 2001. Now let's see the brief historical background of formation of NATO organization. Western Europe was economically exhausted and militarily weak after Second World War, ended in 1945. The Western Allies having substantially decreased their troops at the conclusion of the war. The newly prominent communist parties had emerged in France and Italy. By 1948, communists under Moscow support had established their control of the governments of those nations and crushed all communist political activities. On the other hand, the Soviet Union had emerged from the war with its soldiers ruling all of Central and Eastern Europe. What became known as the Iron Curtain, a term popularized by Winston Churchill, had descended over Central and Eastern Europe. Further, wartime cooperation between the Western Allies and Soviets had completely broken down. Each side was organizing its own sector of occupied Germany, so that two German states would emerge, a democratic one in the west and a communist one in the east. The Marshall Plan, which poured huge sums of economic help into Western and Southern Europe on the condition that they collaborate with one another and participate in collaborative planning to speed their mutual recovery, was initiated in 1948 by the United States. In terms of military recovery, the United Kingdom, France, and the Low Countries like Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg signed the Brussels Treaty of 1948, which established the Western Europe Union. However, it was quickly realized that a much powerful coalition would be necessary to offer a sufficient military counterweight to the Soviets. The three governments of the United Kingdom, Canada, and the United States had begun negotiation on the global collective defense program that would strengthen Western security and promote democratic ideals. France, the Low Countries, and Norway finally joined the negotiations, and the North Atlantic Treaty was signed in April 1949. The North Atlantic Council, which was formed shortly after the treaty was signed, is made up of ministerial representatives from the member nations who convene at least twice a year. At other times, the NATO Secretary General chairs a permanent session of the Council at the ambassadorial level. Over $3 billion in infrastructure supporting NATO forces, bases, airfields, pipelines, communications networks, and depots was jointly designed, financed, and built over the alliance's first 20 years, with the US providing nearly a third of the financing. Now let's look at the objectives of NATO. The main objective at the time of its establishment was to stop the spreading of communist ideology of the Soviet Union in Western Europe, to guarantee the freedom and security of its member states by political and military means, to encourage innovation and adaptation as well as manufacturing of tools to meet current and future threats, to create a sense of solidarity and cohesion among the member countries, to ensure lasting peace in Europe based on common values of individual liberty, democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, to protect the territory of its member states and also to try to reduce the crisis when possible, not to compel any member country to use its full potential to achieve the primary objectives set out in the matter of national security, to not only provide collective defense to meet new threats emerging at the international level, but also to manage crisis situations as well as encourage cooperative security, helping defend your allies from potential threats from the sea and ocean. Do not accept terrorism in any form. Now let's see what are the security challenges before NATO. Tackling the menace of terrorism, preventing the proliferation of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction, challenges related to the development of ballistic missiles defense, protection against cyber attack, combination of improvised explosive devices, reducing the risk posed by energy. The challenges related to the environment are major. combating human trafficking during military operations. Now let's see NATO and India. India is not a member country of NATO. That's because post-independence, India restrained itself from joining such organizations and formed a non-alignment movement with the same objective. But the US Senate has passed a bill to give India the status of a NATO ally. So the US Senator demanded an amendment to the Arms Export Control Act earlier. America has given this status to Israel and South Korea. So that's all for this discussion. Thanks for watching.